Hey Alex, it's Dr. Scott. I have some feedback for you on your second essay, the visual analysis. Just so you know, I'm recording this at home, so I have dogs that bark for no reason. One that's sniffing my computer right now as I speak. It's like supper time here, so you'll hear stuff in the background. So there were four main criteria for this assignment: organization, thesis statement, details to support your analysis, and integrating sources. And I'm going to kind of touch on each of those as we go through. There's some issues that you do really well with, like using details. Like, for the most part, I thought you did a really solid job. There's places where you say this equals pride, and then you really don't kind of explain. Like, there's not enough kind of interpretation or explanation to kind of pull that off. But that doesn't happen most of the time. The big issue for me is organization, and I think it kind of goes back to the thesis statement. So what I'll do is I'll kind of just go through and I'll explain from front to back how the essay did, and then I'll give you some feedback on as far as like how you might kind of where you might go from here. So thesis statement down here, talking about large, busy images and informational borders and backgrounds, and I kind of like that as a way to organize your thoughts. Right now, though, it's like the paragraphs still seem like they're more focused on the murals that you're looking at and less on the interpretation you have of the murals. And I'm just talking about like how they're organized. Like, you have plenty of interpretation going on within those paragraphs, but it's like this takes a while to kind of get to the point and kind of say that the central image is what is the focus here. And I'm kind of wondering if there really should be two parts of this essay. One is where you're talking about what's in the center, and the other part, like what's going on in the borders. As far as like how you break that down and like do that in individual paragraphs, like that's kind of up to you. But I think that there needs to be paragraphs where you're talking about both murals at the same time. So if you want to talk about central images, you can probably say that, like, maybe one is more effective than the other, or one mural makes more of a visual impact, or one does a better job of showing pride in the town. Like, wherever you want to go with that. I do think that both murals need to be talked about in the body paragraphs. This kind of approach of talking about in one paragraph talking about one mural and in another paragraph talking about another, it puts the emphasis more on the murals and less on your analysis of the murals. Another issue with in the introduction is the I statements. I like I statements, they're totally fine, but like the I will look at this, or I picked these two, or in this essay I will do this. That's not the kind of I statements that I think are all that effective, because they're kind of wishy-washy. So where you want to get to is a place where you're kind of saying these two murals inspire pride by depicting large, busy images and using informational borders and backgrounds that support the busy image. That's a little bit more assertive. It kind of gets your idea out there without just kind of prefacing it with like, well, this is in my opinion, because you're not doing an opinion, you're doing an argument. All right, so get off my soapbox there. I'd like one instinct that I think you have that's pretty solid is like being able to try to, in every body paragraph, to remind us like why we're reading some of this stuff. So you always come back to pride, which is great. There are places though where that return to pride isn't as effective as others. So here you're just kind of saying the large boat and bright colors give off a hint of pride, but you really don't kind of explain, all right, how do the colors in the large boat inspire pride? You're just kind of telling us that it does that, but you're not really kind of going through and explaining that. There are other places where you do a solid job of that. This is not one of them. And it's an issue in a few places, but it's not something that I think needs to, like in every instance you need to fix. And I think like that is one place, yeah, I'd like to kind of see you explain like, all right, what exactly is going on there that inspires pride. One of the main criteria for the assignment is being able to organize. All right, sorry about that. I had to stop the recording because we had a cat that tried to get through the screen. Alright, it was a mess. Alright, never mind. I think I was trying to say that, like, the way that the ideas, like, the way that you're switching between ideas, here it seems like, I'm not sure actually, like, here the connection is just chronology, and then here, it's like, alright, you're just telling us to look back at figure 1, and so, and then we're talking about borders, and then we're talking about the background, and then we have a border here. I think there needs to be a statement early on in the sentence, like the first sentence of your paragraphs that are kind of saying, Dafford effectively uses borders to accomplish this. And a lot of this kind of like build up is kind of distracting, and it's hard for me to kind of understand things. I think you actually might have your essay organized a little bit better than I'm realizing, but it's taking me so much work to kind of read through and reread through to kind of like figure out, oh, this is what Alex is trying to do. And you have to do a little bit more of the work than I am as the writer. You need to be kind to your readers, I think is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so good job with the semicolon. I think organization, I think that's going to be the thing that we're going to kind of come down to, and kind of clarifying in your paragraphs what exactly each paragraph is trying to do, and making it a little bit more obvious, like how and why we're moving from one idea to the other. Like why go from the paragraphs about the central images to the margin images, and why did you have one paragraph about one mural, and then you're going to the other mural. That needs to be clear. And right now it's just kind of like, hey, look here, no look here, and I'm going here because this thing historically happened before this other thing. But your paper is not about history. Your paper is about the visuals. So it needs to be organized around your analysis of the visuals. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else. I didn't see sources in here. I see this stuff, but I'm not seeing you integrate the sources that we used. Like I asked you to integrate 2 sources, and you're not, I don't remember you telling me, like, I used this source, or like according to this source, blah, blah, blah. That needs to get into the essay. That needs to get into the revision. There's three sources you can kind of draw from. The Andrew Fike piece about the flood wall murals, the documentary that we watched, and then also the Conrad piece about how murals kind of teach people things. And I think any one of those murals could kind of be useful. Or I'm sorry, one of those sources could be useful. This also doesn't look like MLA format. We don't usually put things in bulleted lists in MLA format. So I would direct your attention back to the little Shawnee guide for information about how to kind of set up your sources. Okay, Alex, let's talk grade here for a sec. Okay, so this is the rubric that I'm using. So thesis statement, close to satisfactory. I think it needs just a little bit of clarity, and kind of like I was saying, like streamline it. Don't hedge your bets. Say, this is what I'm trying to get across. Supporting details, I think close to satisfactory there, because there are places where you're definitely kind of fully explaining the details, and then there are other places where you kind of just say, yeah, this inspires pride, but there's not enough explanation there to kind of pull it off. Organization, I think that needs a fair bit of work. If you feel like you have the paragraphs in the right place, the reasons for having them in the place that you have them need to be a heck of a lot clearer. And I might be persuaded that kind of breaking things down by mural, I might be sold on that, but you got to do a much better job of kind of explaining and clarifying how and why we're moving from one idea to the other. Just ping-ponging me back and forth between 2 murals isn't going to cut it. Source integration, I didn't see much of a, like you mentioned, Burnside and another source, but I don't see in-text citations for them, and I'm not seeing the other sources that we talked about in the class, so I don't have anything there for you just yet. And then other Other items, MLA formatting and things like that, you're close. It's not a big deal. Semicolons seem to be used correctly. That works-cited page didn't look right. But that's where we're at, and I think that that's a pretty solid starting point. If you got questions, let me know. I know you worked hard on this, and I know that it's been a little frustrating, but stick with it. I think you've got something kind of cool here and kind of different.